we ended the podcast. You asked me if I had a piece of advice for people who are listening. And I think what I said is like, just sit with yourself. And it sounds really simple in theory, but I realized like, I don't think a lot of people know how to. Like, what does that actually mean? What does that look like? I was even talking to some family members. We had a little healing weekend a couple weekends ago. And I was like, if I could give you any advice, is just sit with yourself. Like, sit with how you're feeling. They're like, well, how do I do that? And so I thought for today it could be really interesting to sort of show you all a little piece of my personal practice, how I sit with myself.
You're listening to the Feed the Soul podcast. We're talking about tackling tough stuff, chasing dreams, and figuring out who we really are. Each episode ends with a word of advice or encouragement, a nugget of inspiration to empower you to dream big and take that leap of faith into the wild adventure of life.
Hello. Welcome to the Feed the Soul podcast. We're back. Olivia's back. I'm obsessed with her. So,
Cue Mariah Carey.
For real. So when Olivia and I did our last episode, Serving Healing, if you haven't listened to it, listen to that first before coming here.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah. Take a listen to that episode. We talk a lot about, healing our bodies. We talk about intention a lot. We talked a little bit about our stories and grief and what got us to this point of yoga and energy work. Energy work was a big piece as well.
Yep.
And because I'm pretty obsessed with her and was like wanting to learn more about energy. Okay, my biggest takeaway from that episode was intention, in which I already had an episode about intention.
Yep.
But our conversation was a little different than that.
Yeah. It's like living with intention.
Exactly.
And how does that look like?
And so this week I did the challenge of setting my week with intention. And it was, I set the intention this week to be intentional with my time, mindful and aware of my time. It was like my big thing this week.
Yeah.
I'm moving.
Yeah.
I have a job. We're recording. It's just like all these things. A whirlwind. Tornado is
big transition
rocking through.
Period 2 of your life. So.
And last week when I should have moved, I instead kind of grieved.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is important.
Exactly.
It's a really important part of the healing journey too. So
grieving the relationship, grieving like this moment in time, and then also avoiding moving.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, moving itself is like so much work.
Yes.
So I thought, well, I gotta be out here soon.
Yeah.
I have to be mindful of my time.
Yeah.
So that also meant putting down social media, not just scrolling, not watching TV, and just like doing what needs to be done. So that was really helpful.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank yourself.
Thank you, self, for doing that.
Yeah, hard work.
It's been very helpful.
Yeah. And I was going to even ask you like what sort of sacrifices you need to make. And like, was it easy for you? Was it challenging for you to like come back to that intention?
I think it was pretty easy.
Yeah.
Typically, you know, I'd be like watching TV or I'd be on my phone and I go, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah.
We have other things to do.
Yeah.
So it might be packing. It might be meal prepping. It might just be making lunch for the next day, right? Doing something so that when 10 o'clock comes around, I'm not regretting sitting on my phone for an hour when I could have been other things. Right.
Like how can you be present in doing the packing even?
Yes.
Be present and intentional with your cooking even.
Yeah. So typically I would have a podcast on.
Yeah.
I've stopped doing that.
Yeah.
I have been listening to a lot of music with messages.
I mean, music is just healing for the soul.
It really is.
Yes, it's so good.
So I have been doing that, but then I did try to have moments of silence.
Yeah.
Where I am very intentional with what I'm doing.
Beautiful.
Which is makes you sit with a lot of shit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so easy to avoid the stuff that's going on inside. And like in a world where we are really fast paced, we're busy, we're constantly moving. It's just so easy to be like, I'm going to throw a podcast on and cook dinner because I need to do that as well.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Well, good. Right. I'm so glad.
Yeah. So we're coming back for round 2. Because if y'all didn't get enough in the last episode,
we have more.
If you haven't been crying ever since that episode, I'm like, oh my God. Well, we just need to bring more. So today we are going to teach you, and when I say we, I mean Olivia through my podcast is really going to just show us some more of what she does. If you might have had questions about what I'm still not understanding this healing work. I'm still not understanding what it means to be intentional or to be present fully, a full-bodied presence as well. This might be a little more helpful for you in understanding what that is.
Yeah.
So I guess I tell them a little bit. Does it cover what we're doing today?
Yeah, I'll add a little bit. We ended the podcast. You asked me if I had a piece of advice for people who are listening. And I think what I said is like, just sit with yourself. And it sounds really simple in theory, but I realized I don't think a lot of people know how to. What does that actually mean? What does that look like? I was even talking to some family members. We had a little healing weekend a couple weekends ago. And I was like, if I could give you any advice, is just sit with yourself. Sit with how you're feeling. They're like, well, how do I do that? And so I thought for today it could be really interesting to sort of show you all a little piece of my personal practice, how I sit with myself. I have a really simple routine that I do almost every single day. And it really just helps me become super aware of where I'm at today. And from there, I can start to set intention. It helps me kind of guide, okay, here's what I really need today. And every day it changes. Should we just maybe go ahead and get started?
Yeah. Every day it changes. So you do an intention every day.
I try to. Yeah. And sometimes the intention is the same throughout the week. It just depends on what's going on all over here. Some weeks I'm like, okay, I need to ground. And that's my intention for the week. And then it'll change halfway through. And so when we talked about some of the energy work that I do, it really is around balancing all of the chakras within the body, those energy centers that we talked about. And so a lot of it just depends on how my chakras are. Is everything in balance? Great. If it's not, where are the imbalances? And then from there, how can I sort of curate my day to help, stay balanced?
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Because I thought about that.
Yeah.
This week when I was doing that, I said, should I still have it for, being intentional with my time? And I thought it's still needed.
Yeah. 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 And I think intuition can kind of guide you through that too. You'll know when you're like, okay, I feel like some of these practices are now part of my daily routine. I can add on here, or I can, stick with this intention of being intentional.
Yeah.
So, and again, sometimes it changes every single day. Sometimes I wake up and I'm like, I need something different. I need something more active, or I need to slow down. You know what I mean? It just really changes depending on what happens the previous day. So energy is constantly changing in the bodies and around the bodies. And we even talked about how you can pick up energy.
Yeah.
So that can really change your mood. It can change how you're feeling. All of it.
Yeah. Well, today's been a go day.
Yeah.
Bouncing around. So having this moment, although I did do yoga this morning, but having the moment just to sit down and have quiet, it's going to be really nice.
Yeah.
So you can also what if they are watching or listening right now and want to partake, what should they be doing?
In my space, in my home, I have a little space. I call it my she shed. And this is a space that I can come to every single day. And so you can do this practice really anywhere. You can do this in a chair, in an office desk. You can sit on a pillow, kind of like what Savion and I are sitting on right now. You can sit on the floor. You can lay in bed. This can be something that you can do as you wake up even. It's really simple. I try to do this every morning and every evening. It doesn't always happen that way, but I have a really intentional space at home that I can return to every single day. And so I would highly recommend that for anybody. If there's like a little corner in your home, if maybe it's your bed, that's your safe space, but having a place that you can retreat to as things start to arise for you that feels safe, that feels comfortable, it just really creates a nurturing container. We talked about container last time. A safe space that you can constantly return to. And it almost creates this environment within your space that immediately puts you into this meditative state, if you will, or whatever it is that, your personal practice could look like. So as soon as I walk into my she shed, I call it, I'm like, this just feels right. So, but anyways, you can just find a comfortable seat. You can lie down wherever you are. It really doesn't matter, but just a little food for thought. If this is something that you really resonate with and you want to take this home with you, create a safe space within your home. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what my practice looks like and how I sit with myself is I'll first sit down or lie down. Before I do any sort of sacred practice, I like to heart center. Yeah. The heart chakra is essentially a portal to the soul. Some say it's a portal to spirit. It radiates a frequency that is in line with Earth's frequency. And so connecting to your heart space almost opens up this channel for you to live with intention, but also just to do whatever you're doing with love, connecting with your soul, connecting with spirit. And so before I do any energetic practice, I connect to my heart center. And then I just start to tune into this center. And so I'll guide you through this. So in a nice, comfortable seat, bringing both of your hands to your heart center. And just take a few moments to start to draw your awareness to your palms. Start to notice any sensations that you feel in the hands. Maybe you begin to feel your heart beating. Maybe you feel the heat radiating from the chest. Maybe there's other sensations. And just noticing them. And then when you feel ready, starting to draw your awareness to your heart center, the space in the center of the chest. And just becoming aware. Maybe you notice how it feels like to have the hands placed over the heart. And as you're ready, you start to draw your breath to the heart center. As you inhale, expanding into the belly and then the chest. As you exhale, just start to soften into this space. Relaxing the shoulders. And sticking with this rhythm as you inhale into the belly, drawing that breath to the heart. And as you exhale, soften in. And just notice what it feels like to hold yourself, hold your heart in this space. And from here, you can start to imagine the color green forming in the center of the chest. As you inhale, start to watch as the color green begins to expand through the chest. And as you exhale, soften. And continue with this practice for as long as you'd like. Expanding that beautiful emerald color through the chest. And this begins to start to open up your heart center, your heart chakra. And you can sit here for as long as you like. And then once you feel ready, you can open the eyes. Notice any subtle changes to your energy. Noticing how you feel. And now your heart is wide open. And so again, I do this before I do any sort of sacred practice. And this is a really beautiful way to start to connect to yourself. A really beautiful way to, again, do whatever you're doing with love and intention. So that's how I start my morning meditation, my evening meditation. I have a lot of energy that lives in my head. I think a lot of people can relate to that. And so, especially at night after I've been running around all day, I really like to just find some gentle movement. And so this, again, is really simple. I'll typically start to find like a seated cat and cow. As I inhale, I'll draw the chest forward. Exhale, start to round through the spine, tuck the chin towards the chest. And you can really just find any organic movement. This just starts to get some of the wiggles out. You can start to draw circles with the chest. Maybe sink into the hips a little bit. Shimmy the shoulders. Maybe rock the head from side to side. Forwards, backwards. And again, you can take as much time as you'd like doing this. Sometimes it feels really good to like physically shake the hands, shake the shoulders, do a lip dance. And so I'll probably spend like a couple rounds of breath doing this. And I actually do this before a lot of my yoga practices as well, my classes that I teach.
Like you get there early.
Yes, but I also guide it to the students because, again, getting some movement into the body kind of helps to get movement and energy in the body flowing. And so especially like drawing circles with the chest, really getting working in the spine, it just starts to get all of those energy centers to open up a little bit. And that's the beautiful thing about yoga, especially. It's why people love to practice yoga and it feels good, is because it starts to move energy in the body in a really calculated way. So yoga is also another wonderful option that you can do really briefly in the morning for 5 minutes.
So you do this twice a day?
I try to, yeah.
Oh.
Not every day's perfect. Some days I sit on my pillow and I'm like, oh my God, I cannot sit in meditation. And then I just start moving. I kind of just let my body freely move, and that usually helps. But it's a really good checking in point because, as we were even talking earlier, it's like, okay, why can't I sit in my meditation? It's a really good way to check in with yourself and be like, well, what's going on in the background that is not allowing me to sit in stillness where I normally can? What happened the previous day or what happened today that is not letting me be comfortable sitting with myself? What emotions are present? Movement really helps. Heart centering really helps. Again, it's like the practice of yoga is really the practice of awareness. And so having a daily practice to come back to really is kind of like a daily check-in with yourself almost. And I think that's really the basis of like how to actually sit with yourself. How can you begin to find like a disciplined approach to just check in with yourself every day? Journaling is also another really beautiful way to do that. Some days I need to write. And so doing this really simple practice really starts to guide awareness into the body and the mind.
Okay, so in the episode that we did together,
Yes.
you talked about chakras.
Yes.
Now, I listened to, I don't know if it was a podcast or what, of the way to say it.
Yeah.
Chakra.
I think in Sanskrit it's chakra. Like you kind of have a little roll of the R, but it's chakra. I think we just say chakra here in the West. I am by no means a Sanskrit expert, but when I've heard people who have studied Sanskrit, they say it chakra.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you wanted to touch base and talk about each one of those. I know that's your thing. Wasn't that your YTT kind of? I know.
Yes. Yes.
So you've always been about, alignment through your core body, or how would you describe?
Well, I feel like a lot of people have heard this word before.
For sure.
It's also, again, like another elusive term. It's like, well, what is that? What's energy?
Yeah.
And during yoga teacher training, I remember when we first started to learn about the energetics behind some of the yoga poses, I was like, okay, well, how does that tie in with the chakras then? The chakras. And now I feel like I keep having to say it. Anyways, we're just going to say chakras today. And that just got me really curious. And so when we started our segment with Jerry, who kind of taught us about astral yoga, which is the energetics behind yoga, I just kind of went down a rabbit hole, and this is how I do sometimes.
Yeah.
I just find myself when I'm really passionate about something, wanting to learn more, and so that's what I did. And so during our final, we were supposed to design a class around what we were passionate about and how we wanted to incorporate specific themes in our yoga class. And for me, I designed my class around the root chakra. And so the chakras, and these are really important in yoga because yoga is the movement of energy within the body. And these poses are really calculated to facilitate the movement in one direction or the other. They also help to balance these energy centers. And so a lot of the yoga that I teach is actually based around the chakra system. And so these are basically little balls of energy within and around the body. I think during the last episode, we talked about how we kind of live in this energetic bubble.
Mm-hmm.
We also have energy within us, and this energy radiates outside of us to kind of form this auric bubble that we exist in. And so we have 7 chakras within the body. They run up and down the spine. We call this the Sushumna line, which is a channel, an energetic channel. And this channel connects us down into the earth. It also connects us all the way up to source. And there are chakras that even exist above the head. We're not going to get there today. There, I think, are 12 chakras that exist, and they kind of align with the auric layers. There's lots of layers to this field, and it's pretty complex. So we're going to keep it really simple and just talk about the chakras. And so when we start with the first chakra at the very tip of the spine, this is located in the perineum. This is the root chakra, otherwise known as the Muladhara chakra. And this chakra is what connects us to earth. And so this radiates down, this points down into the earth, and this connects the Sushumna, it connects to the earth. And with us being earth beings, it also connects us with one another. And so this is the area within us that cultivates a sense of belonging, a sense of community. It also is what cultivates a sense of safety within us. And so if you ever experience energy healing and you find that you have an imbalance in this area, this tends to indicate that you are not feeling safe. Maybe within yourself, maybe within your environment. And again, there are many different layers. Each chakra has a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual component. And so it's important to analyze in which areas of your life are you feeling unsafe if this chakra is unbalanced. Working with this chakra really helps to ground you. This, again, connects you to earth, and earth energy is very grounding. It's very nurturing. I love working with this chakra. I design a lot of classes around this chakra because it's one of the chakras that I personally had to work on a lot in my life, and I feel like I'm at a really good place with it. Any questions?
And there can be 1,000 questions.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay. As we move up, the second chakra is the sacral chakra, otherwise known as the Svadhisthana chakra. And this is the center of creation. This is what cultivates creative energy within us. This governs our sex organs. This also governs the lower intestine. This governs the hips. This also governs emotions within us. And so you've probably heard a lot of people say, oh, we store emotions in our hips. And that's because we store emotions in the sacral chakra. That is associated with the emotional layer in our auric field. And I personally love working with this chakra as well. It's from this area of the body that we quite literally create life from. And so when you think about that and you think about it on a more esoteric level, if we can create and cultivate physical form with this area of the body, think about the other things that you can cultivate in your life, whether it's something that you want to manifest or it's something you want to bring out into fruition or into the world. This can be an idea. This can be cultivating even a feeling within you. And so this is a really fun, beautiful chakra to work with. This has this like fiery, passionate energy. And then as we continue to work up, the next chakra, the third chakra, is the solar plexus. This is the Manipura chakra. And this is the chakra that governs the digestive system, the stomach, the small intestine. It governs digestion. And it's located in the very center of the torso, so just below the rib cage, the space above the belly button. And this is really our power center. It governs the element of fire within us. And so this is the center that sort of helps us to like bring things into physical form. It is said that these lower chakras are sort of the foundation to all of the chakras and the foundation of your life. And so in the sacral chakra, this is where you start to come up and create some of those ideas. And then when you bring it up into the solar plexus, this is kind of how you bring it out into the world. And in order to do this, you have to be in a really grounded container. You have to feel safe and comfortable and nurtured where you are. And so these are sort of the foundational elements, really help govern your life. They kind of keep us grounded in this material world.
It's interesting. So it's like actual fire.
Actual fire. Yeah. And as
digestion of food, you know.
Agni, as we've learned in yoga, which is the energy within that helps us digest our food. And so Ayurveda talks a lot about the chakra system in a really beautiful way that helps really bring it into like a really understandable way to understand some of these esoteric terms that we hear a lot. So those are the lower chakras. And then we get into the heart, which we kind of talked a little bit about. The heart center is sort of a bridge between the lower chakras and the upper chakras. And it's from this space where we truly connect with one another. This is the seat of unconditional love within ourselves. And, you know, I briefly talked about how the heart center radiates the same frequency as the earth. We all have this unconditional love that exists within us as earth beings, and it all comes from this center. And so when you heart center, this is when you start to do things with unconditional love. And so this is the center of self-love. It's where you cultivate love. It's the center of compassion. And I also talked about this acts as sort of like a portal into your soul. It's sort of the seat of the soul, if you will. And it is the bridge that can get us into some of these higher realms. And so along that line, once we start to get up to the upper chakras, these are the chakras that connect us to source. And so again, the heart acts as a bridge between the material world and then this esoteric world that exists above. And so when we work with the throat chakra, which is of course located in the throat, this is where we start to speak our truth, embody our soul's purpose. And that's why it's layered next to the heart. In a really beautiful way, because once we start to speak and live in our truth, that's when we really can connect to our soul. We all came here with a very specific purpose in the world, and the throat chakra really helps to express that part of ourselves. And so again, heart acting as a portal to really speak and live out our truth. A lot of people have imbalances in this area because truthfully, a lot of people aren't doing the things that they love. They're not living in a way that is truly resonant with their being and what they came here to do. And that's at no fault of their own. Again, we live in a really complex, chaotic world. And so it can be a really big disconnection from the self. And so I've also had to do a lot of work in this area of the body as well. I grew up having a ton of strep throat, and there's definitely, it's definitely not a coincidence. I came into this world to learn how to step into my purpose and my soul's work. It's a really fascinating chakra to work with. Continue to go up. Now we find ourselves in the third eye, and the third eye chakra is what connects us to our intuition. And so I talked about the Sushumna line a little bit. And when we receive information from source, it comes down the Sushumna line. And so the crown opens up to source. This is the sort of seat of source. The crown radiates up. And so as information comes in, it nestles into your third eye. And then you can start to speak that information out through the throat chakra. And so this is where the seat of not just knowledge comes from, but this innate knowing. And it's separate from thoughts, because your thoughts aren't always intuition. And I think it's really important to decipher between thoughts and intuition. Intuition is going to come from a really sacred, loving place, whereas thoughts can sometimes feel a little bit chaotic. Yeah. But anyways, third eye is intuition, and then the crown chakra opens us up to source. And again, they all radiate along this line. of energy, this energetic channel. And so when they're all in perfect spinning harmony, they start to radiate out of the body, which helps to cultivate this big, beautiful auric bubble that we live in.
When they're all moving as they should. When does that happen?
That happens when you are in balance, when you feel safe, when you're creating, when you're living in your power, when you're living in the seat of unconditional love, when you feel like you can fully express yourself without fear, when you feel like you can connect to your intuition and you feel connected to source. And so a lot of times what happens to people as they live their day-to-day lives, their bubble kind of gets smaller and it really just lives maybe an inch or so around them. And again, this is at no fault of their own. Like, we live in a really crazy, fast-paced world. But when you start to do the things that you love, you start to expand through certain chakras, that bubble begins to grow a little bit bigger. But sometimes it can feel almost like people are compressed and they feel like they're kind of even crunching down into themselves and they feel like they have a lack of direction. They don't know where to go. They don't know who they are. And that is a really big indicator that this bubble is shrinking. And so doing the things that you love, like doing yoga, movement is really beneficial. Meditation is beautiful. It really is unique to the person because, again, we all came here with a very specific purpose. And when we start to live in line with that purpose in a way that is grounded and rooted in our foundations, then that bubble begins to expand. And we start to feel free because we have space to move in. You can feel it when your auric bubble is shining brightly and it's nice and open. You walk with a pep in your step. People can start to notice your glow. They can see the energy radiating out through you. So.
Can you see it on camera?
And it's really cool because you can, like, I remember, and this is the first time I actually ever saw an auric bubble. I was listening to, when I still worked in the corporate world, our CEO was speaking and you could see, like, it almost looked like this white glow was surrounding her. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think that's her auric field. I didn't tell anybody this, of course, because they would think I'm crazy. But when she was up there, like, speaking and talking about, you know, the company that we worked for, she was passionate and her bubble began to expand. And so that's like a really simple living example of people kind of just doing the things that they love and watching how their energy just changes.
Yeah. I think, I mean, if you use that language when you tell someone that their bubble or this fear is just so large, can be a little overwhelming. But I have loved when people tell me that they see a glow or that I'm shining that day. Because I think it does remind me of living in purpose or just enjoying life sometimes. And I did end up telling someone that one time. I saw them and I was like, whoa. And and then I think in person, I was like, I just have to tell you, there's just like this bright, beautiful light around you. And thank you for calming me. I just felt safe, you know? And then we started following each other on Instagram and they reached out. I was like, can you tell me more about that? Like, what do you mean by that? And I was like, oh. But then also found out that they teach yoga. So it's like, all right, dig into that a little bit more. But it just made sense of just like their being and how they moved.
Right. Like, you recognize it. And the reason why you recognize it is because you recognize it within yourself.
Well, I've just been told it a lot, but I didn't see it in myself until yoga teacher trainer.
Subconsciously you do, though. Like, when you see something in somebody, you see it because you know you have that deep within you too. You know what I mean? It's like your soul recognizes it.
I think that part, though, like knowing that it's in there, but not, you can don't always see it in yourself. Always. Yeah. So with the chakras, you do a meditation with that. What would that look like?
Yes. It's also part of my personal practice. It's sort of like a daily guiding check-in with each of the chakras. And so essentially what I'll do is I'll just center my awareness onto that specific region of the body. I'll use my breath and I'll slowly work my way up to each region of the body. And it's really just tuning into your senses. And so it's noticing any sensations that you feel in the body. Sometimes people feel some tingling sensations. If you get quiet enough, you will be able to feel something. It also really depends on the person. Again, we all perceive energy in a different way. It's tuning into what you hear, what you see. Some people can even perceive different colors behind their eyes as they're guiding their awareness to certain areas of the body. It's noticing thoughts in the mind, like specifically what kind of thoughts. And so if you're focusing on a specific region of the body and all of a sudden your thoughts start racing, it's like, okay, well, maybe there's anxiety hanging out in this region of the body. Why am I feeling anxious? Things like that. Or maybe there's like a trend to your thoughts. So that's something to be aware of as well. And it's also just being aware of any emotions that arise. As we talked about, each of the chakras kind of carry a certain attribute. And so if you notice that once you're focusing on your solar plexus region, you start to feel this pit in your stomach, that feeling of a pit. That could be anxiety. That could also be feeling like a lack of your personal power. And so that can be an indicator as well. It's like, as you really focus on these regions of the body, just notice what you feel. That's really how you can start to sit with yourself and get to know your own body, get to know your own energy centers.
Yeah.
It's really subtle energy, and everybody perceives energy differently. And so just be open to how that may show up for you. For a while, like, I thought I had no intuitive abilities, but I found out that I perceive energy through feeling and just through cognizance.
Yeah.
Like, things just flow in my mind and I just have this knowing. And it took me a while just to like trust that knowing and to trust the sensations that I feel. I don't see energy. I don't hear it. It's feeling and it's knowing for me. And so just be open to how that may show up for you and really trust yourself. Trust what you're feeling. Write it down. Well, yeah, see, I can blab on about the chakras all day. So hopefully that wasn't overwhelming, because sometimes it can be. It's like, wow, she's going off the rails.
Yeah. Well, I think that just being able to sit first and do like that movement meditation or movement period.
Yeah.
And then just scan through the body, toes to the crown of the head.
Yeah.
You know, I think in your classes, I mean, for me, I don't know how you do it specifically, but for me, it's like start at the toes and work all the way through the crown.
Yeah.
How do the ankles feel, your calves, your thighs, and kind of like go through even the big muscle groups.
Yeah.
I think it's easy just to check in with those spaces before we start to get inward.
Right.
And it's like, wait, what's the difference between that hip point and then up by my ribs?
Right.
You know, like, so just starting like kind of with the basics, you know, and I encourage going to a workshop, going to a class that gets more involved and in depth with it and gives you so much time and space to explore that in that space, you know, and you can ask questions afterwards of, I think I felt this or heard this or however energy shows up for you.
Yeah.
I think it's really important.
Yeah.
And a better idea.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So what do you have coming up?
Yes, actually. Well, I mean, a good way to sort of explore this is to, one, come to a yoga class. As I mentioned, I curate a lot of my classes around the chakras. And this is something that's really important to me in my classes, is to really allow people to become aware of their bodies. And so I incorporate a lot of different energetic practices in my yoga classes as well. But I do have a couple of workshops coming up that really help guide your awareness to these energy centers in a more intentional way. So I have 2 workshops that would be a wonderful opportunity to explore these sacred centers within the body. One is taking place at Helium Hot Yoga, which we recorded out during the last episode in that little cozy space on Tuesday, September 17th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. I host it on a monthly basis, and so you can expect one in October as well. And then I'm hosting another very similar workshop at Collective Flow. And again, it's the same basis. This is taking place also from 6:30 to 8 p.m. on Friday, September 20th. And so these workshops incorporate restorative yoga, so getting in really comfortable, nourishing postures. This also promotes stillness in the mind and the body, which really helps sort of guide your awareness inwards. It incorporates meditation, pranayama, which is breath work, as well as energetic practices to help get you in the body. And in addition to that, I come around and offer some hands-on energy healing. And this is always geared to a certain theme of the month that I intuitively think people need. I also use tarot to help sort of guide those themes, which we'll talk about shortly. But these are really wonderful practices if you're looking for an energetic reset. If you want to expand your energetic or bubble, I highly recommend checking those out. I host them in really small groups, so there's 5 people max. Spaces will fill. So run, don't walk.
Run and sign up for that class. Don't walk. Yeah.
So yeah.
She's a prime.
Oh yeah.
Non-heated studio.
Yeah.
You know, in her location is very rare.
Yeah.
And I see pictures. I follow them on Instagram now, and to have pictures, I'm like, that is a cute studio.
Yeah, it's a really cozy space, and the community there is wonderful. Yeah. So I really love teaching there.
Speaking of spaces, we didn't talk about Love Cafe.
Oh my gosh.
Let's talk about Love Cafe.
Yeah, let's pause.
Let's pause. So we are filming. So the last episode we filmed at Helium Hot Yoga in our cozy studio.
Yes.
Today we are at Love Cafe, where they host Ashtanga yoga, but is also a cafe.
Yes.
I learned about some of the drinks. They have some beautiful teas here, rich teas.
Yes.
Not in price, but also in price. Like, you don't pay a lot for it.
Well,
but they
I would
paid
also say, though, for cacao, they actually offered at a really great price.
Yeah,
because yes, cacao is expensive.
For sure. Like, they pay a lot for it, not the customer.
Yeah, no, this is a really beautiful space. So it is an Ashtanga studio in the morning. And if you've never practiced Ashtanga, it's a very traditional, disciplined approach to yoga. Ashtanga is a very disciplined practice in that it is the same poses every single day. And it's kind of actually the same approach that we talked about. It's the idea is that you show up to your mat in an open space and you just start practicing. There's no one guiding you necessarily, but it's the same discipline practice every single day because it's a way to check in with yourself. I actually think it's a really beautiful practice. And during Bhakta season, I will probably practice. Yeah. Because again, it's just a container for you to check in with yourself every single day. Okay, that pose didn't feel the same as it did yesterday. Why?
Yeah.
So Ashtanga is a really cool lineage of yoga. And if you're interested in checking that out, I highly recommend this studio. And so anyways, they're an Ashtanga studio by day. And then during the afternoon, they open this up into a cafe where they feature a number of wonderful elixirs, Ayurvedic elixirs, actually. So this is where all the yogis hang out in Milwaukee.
Okay.
They have a lot of drinks with cacao, which if you've never had cacao, it is a drink that is made from the cacao plant. And so this is where chocolate comes from. Cacao is just like chocolate is really sweet in cacao, essentially.
Right.
And so it's a really rich, warming drink to have. It's also a heart opener. So this connects directly with the heart center. It's a really beautiful drink that you can actually sit with in ceremony. There's a lot of cacao ceremonies that take place across the world because, again, it's such just a beautiful, expansive heart opener when you sit with it in a really intentional way. So they have a lot of elixirs that incorporate different herbs and spices that are just good for you. They also have coffee, but I have never seen a cafe like this, and I just adore this place. So naturally, we had to reach out and see if we could do a little bonus episode here.
Yeah. Cacao. Yeah. Like unsweetened chocolate.
Yeah.
Connects with the heart. So that's why we give chocolate on Valentine's Day, huh?
Oh, yes. I never made that connection, though. Interesting.
Yeah. Come on over. It is nice in here.
Yes. Cozy. They serve food as well, vegan eats. So lots of really tasty options.
Okay, last but not least so this is also something that you do every morning.
Not every morning. So tarot is not something that I do every day, but as we were talking about intention, sometimes I will sit with tarot or oracle cards to sort of guide my intention. This is definitely a part of my personal practice. We played with tarot in Ecuador on our retreat, which we had a lot of fun with. Mm-hmm. And so if you're not familiar with tarot or with oracle cards, tarot has a really rich history. There is a lot of symbolism in tarot that stems from many esoteric cultures and has been around for a very long time. And tarot's a little bit different from oracle cards. I mentioned it has a lot of rich history and there's a lot of symbolism in the cards specifically. So there's a lot of different meanings that can be assigned to cards. A lot of tarot cards that you see today, this deck included, is based off the Rider-Waite deck, which is, I think, from France, actually, and it's been adapted over time. But it's a set of specific cards. And so every single deck has these same cards that have this really specific meaning that can also mean, multiple different things depending on, how you're working with the cards. And oracle cards are a little bit different because they're really just based on, what the creator wants to create. And so typically it has maybe like one single word on it. And so why don't we open this up so people can see? And so this oracle card just says blessings, and it has like a little affirmation underneath it. Whereas tarot has this beautiful picture. And so there's...
I loved those pictures.
Yeah, they're so cute. And it has a lot of symbology in the actual picture itself. This deck is a little bit different. If you're interested in exploring tarot, I suggest picking up a Rider-Waite deck, which has, all of the historical elements that kind of help you get a better understanding of the deck. So, with that in mind, as you're using tarot or as you're exploring tarot, this is something that is really supportive in building an intuitive practice. And so, yes, there are specific meanings for these cards. However, when I draw tarot, I really allow whatever comes up just to come up for me. If I look at this Root of Thunder card and something different comes up for me immediately than what's listed on the description, I go with that. Because it really is just a play of perceptions almost, or like a way for you to sort through some of the intuition that's coming through. A lot of it is guided by your guidance team, if that's how you practice tarot, and that's how I practice tarot. It's a way for me to communicate with source. And so that's a really beautiful way to just start to develop your intuition. And so when you and I did tarot, I think one of the first things I said to you is that if anything shows up for you in these cards, and if anything is resonating with you over my words, you should follow that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I don't use tarot every single day, but I typically use it once a week, and this kind of guides my intention for the week. And again, that intention may change throughout the day, the days of the week, but this sort of acts as like my North Star, and what I need to be mindful of during the week.
I'm going to make one request. Can you pull one card for me?
Yeah, no, we'll pull a couple. Because we'll talk through it. And so I think what we should do is like showcase, I'll kind of guide you through like, okay, what are you seeing here and what's coming up for you? And I'll kind of like bring in my own piece to it. So we'll do like a little reading to show people how like they can use tarot as part of their intuition practice for like setting their intention. Okay, so why don't we do just like a little practice reading with you, Savion? There's a couple ways that you can begin to pull tarot. When I first started practicing tarot, I would just spread all of these cards face down, and I would hover my hand over the cards, and just wherever I felt a little twitch in my finger, then I would pull it. I've done it using a pendulum before. There's a really specific way people can shuffle and split the deck and then just pull like 3 cards on top. I just shuffle these days because it's easiest. And maybe I'm lazy now. I don't know. But again, it's this practice is different for everybody, and I've just really allowed myself to be creative with it and practice with these however it feels right for me. And so before I do any tarot, I always set my intention with them. And so we'll do that now. And again, before I do anything, I place my hands over my heart. I take a few deep breaths and just start to tune into my heart center. And then we set our intention. We set the intention today to connect with the tarot cards, the oracle cards. We also intend to connect with our guides, and specifically Savion's guides, angels, archangels, his higher self, well-meaning ancestors that guide him to channel any insights through us and through the cards that is towards Savion's highest good. We ask this with deep love and deep gratitude. And so it is. Beautiful. All right, we're open. The heart center is open. You're feeling it. And so now what I do is I just shuffle. And we just see what comes out.
The guides are here. And I'm sensing
feel it?
great energy coming
Amazing. Those are your guides. And I remember the first time we did this, you said you had a visual of a wolf running in for you.
And I have a picture of those cards on my phone. And I actually made note of some of the things that you said.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that afterwards.
Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm just shuffling through the cards. Sometimes it takes longer for cards to pop out. And as you're shuffling cards at home, if you have a deck, you can just continue to state your intention. And so right now our intention is to just receive information for Savion.
I'm open.
Mm-hmm.
No questions at this time. I did think about some questions, and I thought it was mostly like why, and asking for clarification. And I don't think I need to question myself. Okay, this is...
I turn that to face you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you can read these cards facing up or facing down. As you're starting out, I would recommend don't even worry about the reversals. Oh. Okay, so let's see if another one comes out. So far we have the Wheel of Fortune and the Hermit. Both of these cards are major arcana cards, and these are pretty significant cards. There are major arcana cards in a traditional tarot deck, and there are minor arcana cards. Major arcana cards speak to a larger theme in your life. Which is no surprise because you're going through a major transition. So let's see what else comes out. So then you started to talk about, like, as you're looking at these cards, like what's showing up for you. So we have the Wheel of Fortune. We have the Hermit, the Magician, the Empress, and the Seven of Stones, otherwise known as the Seven of Pentacles in a traditional deck. This one is a little bit different. They've changed some things around to go with this theme. And you have 4 major arcana cards, which is not surprising. This is a really powerful spread. There's a lot of big energy coming in for you. But before I begin, is there anything here that you see in the imagery, in the words written on the card, even the colors that are resonating with you or like jumping out at you?
Wheel of Fortune. Okay. I think maybe more so the word fortune.
Yep.
Just at this time. Seven of Stones, this imagery is really cool.
What about it is speaking to you?
It's given like the mindfulness. We're sitting.
Here,
Lotus.
let's show this card to the camera.
Which is really cool. The colors are really cool.
Yes.
I also like the number 7.
Okay.
A lot. The hands being folded, being patient.
Yep.
looking up.
Anything else here in any of these other cards?
Same with this one. I just been feeling like this receiving. Hands up.
Here, we'll show this one. This is the magician that he's speaking about.
Trying to stay open to things
and receive
that are coming. Yeah. And receive.
And so I ask these questions because there are a lot of different meanings that one can pick from these cards. But again, looking at the cards and just seeing what comes to your mind first, like anything that resonates with you, I recommend to like write it down if you're doing this at home. Because again, it's a big intuition practice. A lot of these decks have these descriptions, and I think a lot of people kind of, they like to look at these descriptions, and they are really wonderful descriptions in here. But before you do anything, just like look at the cards, absorb them, notice what jumps out at you, because a lot of times these cards can even carry signs. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe you see butterflies or something. I'm just making it up for right now. But as you like notice what jumps out at you, it's important to write those down and like let that sink in first before, running on the website and be like, what does Empress mean?
Yeah.
And that's how you can start to develop an intuitive practice with cards, because certain cards now mean something different to me than what is even said in this book, just based on how they showed up for me in my life. And that's the beauty of tarot. It's the beauty of oracle cards. You can really allow this to be a personal practice that resonates with you. The other thing that I'll mention is if and when you do read descriptions as you're practicing tarot on your own, notice what words jump out at you. If there are certain words that jump out at you over the others, because again, they can mean a lot of different things, like write that down or take note of that, because again, trusting those little bits of intuition over what somebody else is telling you and what I'm about to tell you is more important, I would say.
Yeah. Well, that's all you get. No more for you. Is there someone you recommend or a place you recommend for someone to get a reading done?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a wonderful friend. Her name is Christina. She offers tarot in a really beautiful, sacred way. Her business is called the Illumination Oracle. She reads out of her space in Bayview. It's a really beautiful space, but she is a wonderful healer. She is very gifted in telling the story of tarot. And so if you're looking for a really in-depth reading, I highly recommend reaching out to her. You can look her up on Google, The Illumination Oracle. You can follow her on Instagram, The Illumination Oracle. She is a wonderful, wonderful reader that I've gone to for 3 readings now through a lot of my life transitions.
So that's when okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So she's done a lot of readings for me. And I highly recommend her to anybody. But again, if you want to just like dabble with tarot on your own, this is a really simple way that you can do it. Setting your intention, shuffling the cards, or laying them out, however you want to do it. It's fine. There's a lot of technicalities and none of that stuff really matters. Yeah. I think intention is the biggest key here. And then again, just look and see what comes up for you.
Yeah. Well, this was an amazing bonus episode for y'all. Thank you for hanging out with us again, Olivia.
Anytime.
You can go back on the Feed the Soul Instagram page to see September happenings.
Yes.
Come check out Love Cafe here on the east side off of Oakland. Beautiful space, whether it's for Ashtanga or not. Again, cafe, come get a drink. I will have Christina's information in the description below. You can check that out. And Olivia's information there as well. Yeah. So until next time, remember, to the world, you may be one person, but to one person, you may be the world. Don't hesitate to just follow your intuition, right? Set intention for your day and see where that leads you. Yeah?
Yeah. Beautiful. Sure.
Sit with yourself. Sit with yourself. It's been really sad, but it's been so beneficial. Yeah. It's been amazing. Yeah. No, for real. It's like, why am I feeling like this? And it doesn't last forever. Right. That's the part that I'm remembering.
That is the beautiful part, like emotions. And there's even a scientific fact around this. I think you could really only feel the true depths of an emotion for maybe 60 to 90 seconds. That's it. all you got to do. And if it's just a cry for 90 seconds, cry. Sometimes it's more.
Yeah.
But when you truly sit with that feeling, it's really not long at all before that can start to process and move through.
Yeah. Good point.
Mm-hmm.
Dang. Okay, bye.